All right, welcome everybody. I am PANDDO, and this is the Duelyst patch rundown for patch 0.0.27. With me is L-Man, Beastio, and Atlanta, and we're going to be breaking this patch down as we go along and look at all these new beautiful things we got here. We got a new Vitruvian map, and we got a new Songhai splash screen, clearly Songhai OP. As L-Man Beastio pointed out, clearly Vitruvian Songhai, the next big factions to get buffed, as the devs are clearly biased. Wouldn't you agree, L-Man?
Yeah, clearly. You can't just add those to the game and not say that there's bias, right?
No, not at all. It's ridiculous. So moving on to some brand new cards, we have Ash Method, a little homage to Ash if you've seen him on the forums. He has a beginner's guide, but it's a new 2/3 that you can kind of spawn some extra copies out of. Death Blighter, the opening gamut, deal 3 damage to all nearby enemy minions. And then we got First Sword of a Crane, which is kind of a big dude that also can buff the rest of your dudes. So I'm going to pass this one over to Atlanta. Atlanta, what do you think about these new cards, and do you see any of them creeping into any potential deck playstyles?
I think that a lot of them are just very nice kind of budgety cards, since they're all common, right? And so some of these cards can be really strong on their, like, on the turn that you can actually play them. Like 4/6 cores Death Blighter could be really good because it kills most of the really resilient drops. Like, an ideal situation could be you just gibbing all of the 2-drops that they've played if they place them incorrectly. And Ash Method, like, so it can kill. I think it can kill up to its mana costing creatures fairly easily. For 6 core, at least that's for Death Blighter, sorry. And First Sword's kind of like, could be nice with certain creatures. Ash Method actually comes to mind again, where you could buff those. And as for Ash Method itself, I think it's a decent card for 5 mana, and I like that it's a common. I think that'll be a lot more relevant for whenever we have, like, it's kind of like more low dust income or low spirit income. Let's see, on the reset or something like that. That card might be a lot stronger relative to some of the higher or like more expensive legendaries that can also fill that slot. So I like that there is now a fairly strong 5-drop creature that's neutral, and that is common. So I think that it's really useful in a lot of the factions that can reposition, since the random positioning can be used to your advantage, such as using Heart Sister to maybe swap one creature away towards an Ash Method, or swapping one of your Ash Methods in, kind of like how you can do with Songhai with Lantern Fox. So you could see this card in Songhai potentially as well. And I think that the bodies are really nice for giving them buffs. For instance, you could accelerate the card with Abyssian, put Shadow Reflection on it, and it's pretty durable. The only AoE that it would die to is Plasma Storm. So I think overall it's kind of a nice creature. Fills a nice niche.
Yeah, and on that point, you could even use Magmar a little bit and like have the base copy would probably be damaged, and the clones wouldn't be. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
would probably be the interaction. So like, that could actually be a viable strategy as well. L-Man Beastio, out of these 3 cards, like, which one's the one that like has you most hyped? Like, which one do you feel like you might try to slot in the deck at some point?
It's between. It might be Ash Method, but Death Blighter would be the 3 would be Ash Method, then Death Blighter, then First Sword, because you just basically get triple value out of your buffs with Ash Method on the right deck. Even like not even triple value on both, or like even triple Death Watch, right? So like that might even be a thing.
Yeah.
Death Blighter, the cool thing, like at first I looked at it as like just the bigger Naga, right? The Frostborn Naga. But it doesn't hurt either General's face or your own minions. So it's almost a strictly better Naga. Well, the effect is almost strictly better than Naga, except for the not hitting the enemy's face, because that also means it doesn't hit the General's like artifacts. But yeah, it would be like Ash Method, then Death Blighter for me, and then First Sword.
Yeah, well, definitely some interesting cards that come in here. We'll see if any of them work their way in. but if we could have some other rules as we go forward. Looking at Magmar changes, we actually have 2. So Kujata's cost changed from 3 to 2, and its stats are changed to a 2/2 now. And then Metamorphosis, getting that seems to be popular pseudo removal kind of thing where everything's costing more. Metamorphosis going from 4 to 5. Elman Bistio, can you shed some light on where you think these changes are coming from? What you think about them?
Well, all right. So Kujata first. Basically, I think this. So before, right, it was a 3/2 for 3. That was the change. So it lost 1 attack, 1 mana, and also before it was fighting with the Wisp and with Flash Reincarnation as the ramp cards in the deck, right? So the difference now is Crystal Wisp is neutral, or not? Sorry, it's not neutral. So it's a banner card. So less competition there, and now that Kujata costs 2. Not only can he be your new cheaper acceleration card, that damage trigger is actually a benefit in some Magmar cards, like Amplification. It's probably the biggest one, where you just buff your creatures for free after summoning them. For Twin Fangs, you get stronger on your general. So I feel like at 3, plus competing with the other cards before, it wasn't quite that good. And for Epic, you want your Epics to, like, have their value, and this is like, feels spot on probably. I personally didn't have too much success with the 3-cost versions, but this is probably gonna be like a perfect fit, maybe. We'll see how it pans out. And then for Metamorphosis, it's just like there's certain scenarios where the card was just a total blowout because minions with 2/2, minions transforming into 2/2, like they don't get debuff, right, to 2/2. They get transformed into 2/2. So you lose all your keywords. There's no Death Wish, no nothing, right? And then any general, like a general can attack it. A Mantis can frenzy all of them at the same time, like a War Beast. So like there was certain scenarios where you just lost like 5, 10, 15, whatever mana worth of value on your creatures, because them going down basically made them that much more worthless, right? And then they all die because they're so weak from being a 2/2 creature. So it was just really strong at certain times. So I can see the change. And the other thing is, like, comparing the removal that Magmar has, it's if you're gonna have Egg at 4 and a single target, or Plasma Storm AoE, but it's what do you say? Plasma Storm is symmetrical for both players, and it has like a restriction on it. Why was Metamorphosis the same cost, but potentially way stronger than both, right? So it just makes sense to me, the mana increase.
Yeah, for sure. Atlanta, do you see these changes causing any changes to the way Magmar is played currently? Do you think like Kujata decks are going to become a thing now?
Well, it does allow the slower Magmar decks that used to run Wisp that now find that they're a little slow to have a little bit of kind of leeway with Kujata now giving some acceleration. And it also helps some of the faster decks too, which allows you to dump your hand really fast. And it pays for itself now with only 2 creature summons, which I think is pretty realistic in one turn, especially in later phases of the game. And it allows for some combos that before were much harder to pull off, such as the Elucidator would be put down to 3, but it would also be damaged. So your Elucidator goes down to 3 with Kujata out. Now you can use Fractal Replication on it, and you can also use Amplification on the Elucidator. So that is a lot of potential damage output that you can now do with Kujata simply being on the board, which allows for that type of combo deck to be more usable. And as for the Metamorphosis change, like Elman said, I think it was pretty warranted, even though the card wasn't very popular. On paper, it should be reasonable to assume that this card shouldn't cost 4 mana, especially because the conditions or drawbacks attached to it tend to outweigh the benefits. The benefits tend to outweigh the drawbacks almost every time you cast it. And since even if you were to only remove 1 creature with it, it is still almost just better than Egg Morph. given that there's so much more potential upside to it. And so it's a spell that will still be useful, just won't be. It'll cost one more. I mean,
Yeah.
all it really comes down to is the card is still good. It's just whenever it hits the table, your opponent had more time to react to it, or more time to sort of either build up their hand in expectation for Metamorphosis, or if they play into Metamorphosis, they aren't punished as hard because they turn to utilize their creatures in some way, or they lose their whole point. And I think it's easier to play around Plasma Storm than Metamorphosis by far. So
worthwhile changes from your guys' point of view. And with that wrapping up, we got a few extra sprites that kind of came in here. We got a taste of some cool animations. Although the unsung hero of this patch was clearly PANDDO. Why is PANDDO the best addition to this patch, Atlanta and LMNBCO?
I heard it's named after a really cool guy that does these videos that we seem to be in every week. I'm not sure though. He's just a panda.
Oh, okay. Well, that seems like a pretty good reason. This guy is probably pretty awesome. So I have to agree with that analysis right there, Atlanta. But with that, that's going to be it for patch 0.0.27. For myself, Elman Bistio in Atlanta. We're out this week, but tune in next week. Hopefully, we'll be able to get you this patch a little bit more on time this time. This week, got a few little issues coming in here, but expect us the normal time next time, and we'll catch you then.